Need some new Commander cards? Well, you can pre-order Commander Legends now from our amazing sponsor, Card Kingdom. Just head on over to cardkingdom.com. Hello, everyone. It's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another daily dose of Commander Legends spoilers. So I know, it's the weekend. We don't always have daily spoilers on the weekend, but I couldn't help it. We have so many sweet Commander Legends cards to talk about. I figured, let's make a Saturday video and talk about sweet new Magic cards, because what's better than sweet new Magic cards? And as I mentioned, there's a ton of cards to talk about today, which means we should probably jump right into it. Start talking sweet new Commander Legends cards. And first off, we have a card that sneakily might be one of the most played cards from the entire set, and that is this innocent looking colorless land, War Room. So War Room taps for a colorless mana, comes into play untapped, and you can pay 3 and tap it, and pay life equal to the number of colors in your commander's color identity to draw a card. So essentially, let's say you're 5-color deck, it's pay 3, tap it, pay 5 life to draw a card. But if you're a 1-color deck, it's only 1 life, or if you're a colorless deck, it's 0 life. So War Room is actually an incredibly powerful land. If you look at other lands that allow you to draw cards, Arch-Varaska, it's 5+ tapping, and you need to ascend first. Bonder's Enclave, same mana cost as War Room, but you gotta have a big creature. Seagate Wreckage, need you to have 0 cards in hand, and also have actual colorless mana. So War Room, it is as efficient as this effect gets, except the drawback is much less restrictive than other similar options. You don't need to be empty-handed, you don't need a creature power 4 greater, which I think means War Room is quickly going to develop into a staple in a couple of different kinds of decks. So first off, Seagate Wreckage is already a staple of colorless decks. It's already played in like over 50% of Emrakul decks, Kozilek decks. Go down the list. If it's colorless, because you need colorless hands anyway, you're playing Seagate Wreckage, War Room is just a strict upgrade. The mana cost is the same. It adds the same mana. It still comes into play untapped, except you don't have to be empty-handed to draw a card. So this is absurd in any colorless deck. More importantly, this is a card that helps power up white. And I know it's weird that white, because it's so bad at drawing cards, it needs good colorless cards to actually be able to keep up with the other colors. But Wizards actually said this. Gavin mentioned on Twitter that part of the idea of this card was to help white, and it is very good in white decks. I think really it's good in almost any mono-colored deck. However, it's even better in white because white struggles so much with drawing cards. So if you're playing mono-white, a land that comes into play tapped, and you could definitely afford a few colorless lands in your mono-color deck, but comes into play tap and is 3+ tap plus pay 1 life to draw a card, is absolutely absurd. I think it also will see you play in a lot of other mono-color decks. Just, it's really efficient at what it does, and I think it can see you play in some 2-color decks as well. I think the more colors in your deck, the more painful it becomes, the less likely you are to play War Room, but especially if you're like Boros or something, another color combination that kind of struggles with drawing cards, War Room's looking pretty good. Like, 2 life isn't that much, and you probably could gain back some life in one way or another. So I think War Room is going to be a ultra staple of colorless decks. Like, it should be played in very close to 100%. Nothing's 100% in Commander, because people build decks based on what they enjoy, what they want, what cards they have available. But really, if you're playing a colorless deck, you should have War Room 100% of the time. If you're playing a mono-colored deck, you should have it a very high percentage of the time. If you're playing mono-white or mono-red, colors that struggle with card draw, it goes up even further in value, and I think it's good in some 2-color decks as well. Once you get to 3, 4, 5 colors, it's not really designed for that. The life cost will add up if you're drawing an extra card every turn, but this land's really good, and it's going to see play everywhere, and it helps power up some colors that really need it. So, well done on this one, Wizards. We also got a pretty interesting new legend, and Gen Arcanum Weaver. So Gen is a 3-mana Mardu commander. It's a legendary human wizard. You get a 2/3 with the ability to pay Mardu mana, 1 of each, sacrifice an enchantment to return an enchantment from your graveyard to the battlefield. And while I don't think Gen is like super busted, I really like this card, and it does a couple of pretty important things in the Commander format. So first off, Mardu enchantments is a pretty underappreciated and underrepresented archetype. There are some reasons that we'll get to in a minute that you'd want to build a Mardu enchantment deck, but right now, if you look on EDH Rec, the most popular Mardu enchantment commanders are Queen Marchesa and Mathis, neither of which actually has anything really to do with enchantments at all. So Gen actually gives Mardu a commander that cares about enchantment. So if you want to play Mardu enchantments, Gen is the way to go. So what's actually exciting about Gen? First off, it's super powerful with enchantments that have enter the battlefield triggers or like pseudo enter the battlefield triggers, because you can keep looping them. So let's take like Liliana's Contract, for example. When it comes into play, you draw 4 and lose 4 for 5 mana, which is already pretty good. That's almost close to like Promise of Power, which is a pretty heavily played, very good card. Discounting the demon text, you could play a demon deck if you wanted to, but just as a card draw spell. So you play Liliana's Contract, you draw 4 cards, you lose 4 life, then you can sacrifice Liliana's Contract because it's already done its job, you already do the cards, get something else back from the graveyard, and then when you need more cards, you sack to something else and get back to Liliana's Contract, take advantage of the ETB trigger. It's also great with Demonic Pact. You can use the beneficial modes, sack it before you gotta lose the game, and then get it back to use the beneficial modes. Oath of Liliana gives you ETB enchantment removal, Treacherous plus more card draw, Necromancer's Covenant, really hilarious, exiling graveyards, making a bunch of zombies, maybe on repeat with Gen. So taking advantage of ETB enchantments, one easy way to go with Gen. The other thing I like about Gen is it feels like a really good commander for Curse.deck. And Curse.deck is a really cool commander archetype, but one of the problems with curses, by far the biggest problem with curses in Commander, is curses enchant a player. So let's say we're playing Commander Clash. I have a Cruel Reality in hand. This actually just happened like a couple episodes ago. You should go back and watch it on the MTG Goldfish Commander YouTube channel, but check it out if you haven't. So you have Cruel Reality. You choose who you're going to enchant with it. It ended up being Tomer in my case. By luck of the draw, picked a random number. It was Tomer's number. So Tomer gets a chat with it. The problem is, eventually, Tomer's going to die from Cruel Reality. Or maybe not even die, but maybe Tomer gets low on life. And I start to feel bad. I'm like, I don't really want to kill Tomer. I wish this Cruel Reality was on Richard instead, or on Crim instead. Normally, you're just kind of stuck. Once you curse someone, they're cursed until the game ends, more or less. Well, again, you can sacrifice your Cruel Reality, get back like the Liliana's Contract or whatever, draw some cards, and then you can sacrifice the Liliana's Contract, get back the Cruel Reality, and that allows you to reset whoever you're cursing. So I feel like Gen is the absolutely ideal curse commander, and it really makes me want to build Curse.deck with all the sweet curses we got, and it's the right colors for it as well. Also, you can go Constellation. Constellation has some sweet options, but I think these are more like support pieces. If you're playing Gen enchantments, you probably throw like some Doomwakes in your deck, because you're going to have a lot of enchantments entering the battlefield, but Constellation is another way to take advantage of the constant looping of enchantments from your graveyard. So again, I love this card. I think this is a really sweet card. It might not jump off the page as busted, and honestly, I don't think it is busted, but it opens up color combinations for enchantments that haven't existed before. It's great support for the Curse deck, which hasn't had a great commander, and it's just a really fun card. The only quibble with this card is, good lord, is that some is-it-looking art. Like, that is the most is-it-looking art I have ever seen on a Mardu card. So, the art's a little bit weird, but that aside, card's really, really sweet. We also got Gnostro, Voice of the Crags, and this one, alright, I kind of meh on this one. So, 4 mana, Jeskai, Legendary Chimera, you get a 3/3, and it has ability where you can tap it and choose one, with X being the number of spells you've cast this turn. Scry X deals X damage to target creature, or you gain X life. So, Gnostro, I'm probably butchering that name so badly. There's only one thing I really like about it, which is it is a legendary Chimera, and we just haven't had a legendary Chimera like ever. So there's not a ton of Chimeras in Magic. Your deck wouldn't be very good, but if you want to build Chimera Tribal, Gnostro is the way to go. Otherwise, it's kind of like this weird Storm card, except it can't really kill anyone. That's kind of the issue with this card. You Storm off, you cast a bunch of spells, you have your commander out. What's your reward? You gain a bunch of life, you scry a bunch, you kill a creature. It's never going to really kill your opponent or do anything that exciting. So other than being a Chimera, I think it's kind of weak. That said, if you want to go really deep, and Jake, you can kind of turn Gnostro into a real payoff if you're willing to play Brash Taunter, Stuffy Dolls, Boros Reckoners, Spite Bears, creatures that when they are dealt damage can redirect that damage to your opponent. Then you can turn Gnostro into a real actual grape shot, essentially. So that could be a fun way to build around it. So I think this is mostly, it's a fun flavor legend. Like, we haven't had a legendary Chimera. It's sweet to see a legendary Chimera. Maybe you do Stuffy Now, Boros, Reckoner, Brash, Taunter, Jank with it. But really, I think it's pretty medium power level wise. But that's just fine. Some cards are about the flavor, and this being a legendary Chimera is definitely flavorful. We also got a red 9-mana mythic, Soulfire Eruption. So 9-mana red sorcery. Choose any number of target creatures, planeswalkers, or players. For each, exile the top card of your library, then Soulfire Eruption deals damage to that permanent or player equal to the card's converted mana cost until the end of your next turn. You can play the exiled card. So Soulfire Eruption, this is kind of a weird card to figure out. There's two different things going on. Like, weird, somewhat random removal combined with potentially very powerful card draw effects. So removal-wise, it's kind of like an upgraded Kaboom. And Kaboom, while a funny card, in one of the few Magic cards that have an exclamation point in their card name, is not actually a very good card. The upgrade is you actually get to target planeswalkers and creatures, so that is a big upside compared to Kaboom. It's also a little bit like Rakdos the Showstopper, where you have this potential wrath, except you can't really control it, and it's more or less of a coin flip. Like, if you hit expensive stuff on the top of your deck, you're going to kill some creatures, deal a bunch of damage to your opponent. If you hit a bunch of lands, you're not going to kill anything. There's not really a great way to control it. You can try to, like, scroll rack a little bit, but I'm imagining when you cast this, you're targeting, like, all of your opponent's creatures, all their planeswalkers, all their faces, and probably some of your creatures as well for even more card draw. That brings us to the second part of Soulfire Eruption. So I think Soulfire Eruption is kind of meh as removal. The more exciting part of Soulfire Eruption is to be this ridiculous card draw spell, where essentially you can draw a card equal to the number of creatures, planeswalkers on the battlefield, and also players in the game. So this can very easily be 9 mana, draw 20 cards, or even more than that. It could be draw your entire deck if there's a bunch of tokens going on. So as a card draw spell, it is really powerful. Yes, you do have the Commune with Lava problem, where you do have to play the spells during your next turn. So you can't keep the cards forever. It doesn't work with Reliquary Tower or anything, but it is still a ridiculous burst of card draw. It is especially scary with commanders that can help you get to it faster, and also maybe help you cast the spells that you get with Soulfire Eruption. So like Nihab the Eternal, that's a perfect one. Nihab ramps you into Soulfire Eruption, and then theoretically can make you a bunch of mana the next turn to cast all the cards you got with Soulfire Eruption. Or Narset, sneaking this into play with its attack trigger seems absolutely absurd. It's also one of the sweetest cards you could have with Omniscience. I mean, I know everything's good with Omniscience, but Omniscience into Soulfire Eruption, it's pretty close to Enter the Infinite. Like, it's not quite, yes, maybe the board got Wrath and it's not going to be that good, but there's going to be situations where you are drawing a massive chunk of your deck and playing it for free. So Soulfire Eruption, it's 9 mana. 9 mana means it's not going to be broken, but it is a card that if you can resolve it, it's going to be incredibly strong. We also got Apex of Devastator. And Apex of Devastator, this is what Mythic should be. If any card in Commander Legends feels mythic, it is this one. So 10 mana, 10/10, Chimera Hydra. It's text, 4 words. Cascade, 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 Cascade. So when you cast Apex Devastator, you are going to get 4 other spells from your library for free. So think of this as a 10 mana 10/10 that draws you 4 cards when it comes into play, except it also lets you cast those cards, which is insane. So yes, because of how Cascade works, you do gotta cast it, so it's not a good reanimation target. It is 10 mana, so it's not broken, but boy does this look like a fun card to cast. This is like Maelstrom Wanderer on steroids. Double Maelstrom Wanderer. You lose the haste, but you gain twice as much cascading. If you want to try to build around it, you can with like Scroll Racks or Sensei's Divining Tops or Vampiric Tutors, ways to control the top of your library. But I think really, people are just going to ramp into this in green decks, and they're going to cast it, and it's going to put a ton of stuff on the battlefield, on the stack. You don't need a combo. You just get a 10/10 and a bunch of other random stuff, which seems super, super fun. So is the card powerful? Undoubtedly. Is it broken? I mean, it's 10 mana, so I think it's safe, quote-unquote. If you're resolving a 10-mana creature, it should have a huge impact on the game, and Apex Devastator certainly does. We also got Court of Bounty, which is a new kind of Elvish Piper, Dramatic Entrance, Garrick, Caller of Beasts. So 4-mana green enchantment. When it comes into play, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, you can put a land from your hand on the battlefield. But if you're the Monarch, you can put a creature or a land card from your hand on the battlefield instead. So a little bit of ramping if you got extra lands, but potentially a way to Elvish Piper, Dramatic Entrance, Garrick, a huge creature into play. So I think this is a card that it's fine in general. Like, being the Monarch, I really like. I think it's powerful in general, but it's going to be at its best in big creature green X decks, like Mile the Anima, all about big creatures, Xenagos, Karthus. If you got a bunch of big creatures, Court of Bounty gets even better, because if you can maintain the monarchy for just a turn, you can dump something huge into play and really swing the game in your favor. So, much like the rest of this cycle, I think the card's good. Like, making yourself the Monarch's good. It's fun. I love that mechanic. One of the best multiplayer mechanics of all time. And if you could stay the Monarch, which you're going to have an incentive to do because this will be really powerful if you do, you can start just slamming big things really quickly. We also got a Becca Brute Chronologist, which might be one of my favorite legends from the entire set. Oh man, this card is so sweet. So 4-mana Grixis Legendary Ogre Warrior, a 3/4, with tap, the player whose turn it is may end the turn. So, a Becca, it's kind of like a Sundial to Infinite. It's actually exactly like Sundial to Infinite, with some commander political implications thrown in. So on your turn, you just tap it and end your turn. If you want to end your turn, you can. You can also use it on your opponent's turn, though. You can't force your opponent to end the turn, so it's not a mean thing. But instead, maybe something's going wrong. Your opponent's about to take a huge bunch of combat damage. You want to parlay some favor with them. You can take and end the turn before they take the combat damage. Probably, I don't know, get something out of the deal. So you can use it on your opponents, but if you're building around it, I think you're mostly building around it with your own deck. So how do you take advantage of ending your own turn? Answer one is, it's a way to keep things forever that normally go away end of turn. So the timing's important here, but let's say you Mirror March. You cast a bunch of stuff, you get a bunch of Mirror March tokens. Normally, on your end step, they're going to all get exiled, which is not good. I mean, it's fine, but it's not exciting. It's much better if they stick around. So the trick is, if you make those Mirror March tokens and then go to your end step, Mirror March will put a trigger on the stack. If you end the turn with that trigger on the stack, it gets exiled forever. You will keep all your Mirror March tokens forever. Important to point out, if you do it too early, it's not going to work. If you just Mirror March, make a bunch of tokens, go to combat, go to your second main phase, end the turn then Mirror March is going to trigger again at the next end step, because the end step never actually happened. Same is true of like Perforos. Perforos normally makes you sacrifice the creatures that you put into play. Well, with a Becca, you can put something massive into play, wait to the end step when the sacrifice trigger goes on the stack, Becca it to exile it forever, keep that creature around forever. So those are some of the shenanigans. It also seems to work really well with certain other legends. So obviously, I'm excited to build around this as a commander. It's just so janky and sweet. But in the 99 of Lord Tressorhorn, it's a way to keep your Lord Tressorhorn without sacrificing a million things, which would actually be nice. You just put the trigger on the stack, then end the turn. It's sweet with Cedrus, the Trader King. Unearth is another mechanic where normally the creature goes away forever, gets exiled at the end of turn, but if you can end the turn with the trigger on the stack, you get to keep the creatures you unearth. So a great way to cheat massive things into play. It's sadly sweet with Inala, which doesn't need to be sweeter, but the tokens from Inala, again, like Mirror March, usually go away in the end step. Becca's even a wizard, so it works with the tribal theme. You can keep your wizard token Panharmonicon shenanigans around forever. So it works well there. The other fun thing to do with this card is lose the game tribal. That's the other way to really take advantage of a Becca as your commander. Glorious End, Final Fortune, Last Chance, Demonic Pact. These are all cards that are really undercosted, really powerful. Like, I mean, Final Fortune, Last Chance, it's an extra turn for 2 mana. That's Time Walk. It's Time Walk, a power 9 card. That's the same rate. The problem is, you lose the game at the end of that turn. Well, with a Becca, you don't lose the game. You can take the extra turn. At the end of that turn, you just Becca to exile the lose the game trigger. You're good to go with 2 mana red Time Walk. So Becca, oh man. This card is super sweet. It is one of the sweetest legends we've seen in a long time. I will be building janky decks around it. It works well in the 99 of other decks. I just love this card. Super, super sweet legend coming in Commander Legends. We also got Wrong Turn, which is kind of a weird one. 3 mana, blue instant. Target opponent gains control of target creature. Being an instant is kind of a big deal here. So Wrong Turn, it's kind of like a donate with a twist. So donate, same mana cost. The difference is donate is sorcery speed, which makes it worse, and donate only gives control of your creature to an opponent. You can't switch around other people's stuff. Wrong Turn, you could take and give opponent A's creature to opponent B, for example, which allows for some really sweet, funny tricks. Obviously, you can't just steal the creature for yourself. You can only give it to opponents. So I feel like Zedru, most obvious home for this, works really well with that. But I also just like Wrong Turn as like a funny shenanigans card. Like, it just does weird things. It's like a blue chaos card. No one's going to expect it. When you cast it, I don't know, like, picture this. Crib attacks Tober. Tober doesn't have a great blocker. You could take and give Richard's creature to Tomer that can then block Crib's creature, get it off the battlefield. So there's just all kinds of weird things that this card can do. So I don't think this card's especially good or broken. Like, the most powerful combo is to, like, Bronze Bombshell someone for 7 damage, which in Commander just isn't much of anything, but it's just a weird, tricky chaos card. It seems like a really sweet one to resolve. Next on our list, we have a sweet white enchantment, Promise of Demario. So 3 mana, whenever a creature you control dies, exile it. At the beginning of each end step, if you have no creatures, sacrifice Promise of Demario, return all cards exiled with it to the battlefield under your control. So level 1, Promise of Demario, really good Wrath protection. If you're playing a white creature deck and wanting to flood the board, but worried about getting blown out by a Wrath and having your game end, essentially, because white's so bad at drawing cards, this is good protection. Your opponent Wraths, or you Wrath, everyone else is going to lose all their creatures. Your creatures are going to come back on the end step. So that's the easiest way to take advantage of Promise of Tomorrow. On the other hand, I actually think this is a really sweet card for sacrifice decks. If you're playing like Eiley, Tisa Karlov, Kraven Regna, Vishkale, you can use this as a way to sort of like double up your aristocrat triggers. You sacrifice your entire board, and then on your end step, all your creatures come back. You can do it again, throw in some Blood Artists or Cruel Celebrants or Grim Haruspecs, and you can get a lot of value out of this 3 mana enchantment. So I like Promise of Tomorrow. I don't think it's a staple, but it's sacrifice decks or go wide aggro decks that are worried about just losing the game to a Wrath. I can see this offering a lot of value by protecting your creatures or as a weird sacrifice combo piece. Next up, we have one of my favorite uncommon commanders from the set, Thylus Reverent Medium. So 5 mana, 3/4, Orzhov, legendary human cleric. At the beginning of each end step, create X/1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying, where X is a number of tokens you created this turn. So even though you might not realize this, spirit tokens is actually a semi-popular archetype. In Commander, they are perfect for Orzhov. That's the best spirit token color, but they're another tribe that doesn't really have a good lesson. Right now, it's mostly Tisas that see play as your spirit token commander. Tisa Karlov, so you can like double up afterlife triggers. Tisa Envoyagos, because it technically makes a white and black spirit when you're dealt damage. But Thylus is actually just perfect for this archetype, doubling up your tokens on your end step. So this means you just play your commander, maybe get down an Anointed Procession, and then you go to town. Like a Lingering Souls with Flashback for 5 mana is going to make you 8/1/1 tokens, counting the ones you get on your end step. If you have Anointed Procession out, you're going to get 8 tokens from the initial Lingering Souls, and then 16 tokens from your commander. Spectral Procession, Court of Grace, each also serve a role in this deck. And it's important to mention, this just says tokens created. It does not say creature tokens. So even just playing Thylus and then having a Smothering Tithe out, let's say, where you're probably getting at least 1 treasure token each time around the table, and sometimes more if your opponent's drawing cards, because Thylus triggers on each end step, you're kind of building this really powerful, weird Bitter Blossom where you get the treasure token, that's going to get you a spirit token. So if you want to play like Orzhov treasure tokens, Smothering Tithe, Revel in Riches, another perfect commander for that as well. So one of the most sweet, the most unique of the uncommon commanders we've seen so far. I can definitely see myself building a really fun Orzhov spirit token deck around Thylus and it being pretty good. We also got Arden, Intrepid Archaeologist. So 3 mana, 2/2 legendary core scout. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may attach any number of auras or equipment you control to target permanent or players. So Arden is kind of like a Bruna. It reminds me a little bit of Bruna, except Bruna, of course, needs to actually attack or block. The nice thing about Arden is you can play this from your command zone and just go to combat and get that trigger right away. You don't have to have haste. It doesn't have to attack. It just happens immediately, which probably gives it some potential as a commander. Although I think the main hope for this is in the 99 of most equipment or aura style decks. So if you're playing Sram or Akiri or Siona or Euro, any of those style of decks, this seems like it's definitely worth a slot, just as a way to move around your equipment for free. So I feel like that is the easiest hope for this. Also, if you want to build the mythical Colossus Hammer deck with Ragic, I think this might be the good partner for it. Like, this is another way you could cheat your Colossus Hammer on Ragic, start smashing your opponent's face, like turn 1 Ragic, turn 2 Colossus Hammer, whatever, maybe another cheap equipment, turn 3 Arden, stick it all on your Ragic, go to town really quickly. And as we talked about a little while ago with another commander, this is another really sweet curse commander. One of the things I love about Commander Legends is they seem to be in a sneaky way supporting the curse archetype, because Arden says you can attach auras to a permanent or a player. This means you can move around your curses. Like I said before earlier in the video, if you put your curse on Tober and then decide you don't want your curses on Tober, normally you're just stuck. Well, Arden, you can put your curses on Tober and then decide later that actually Richard or Crib or whoever is the right choice, move them over for free with a 3 mana legend. So a great curse commander as well. So I like this card. It feels like a really great 99 card for any Boggle style aura or equipment deck, and like it has some commander potential as well. Speaking of cards that are good in the 99 of aura and equipment decks, Armored Skyhunter. It's another staple in those decks. 3 mana, 3/3 fly cat knight. When it attacks, you can look at the top 6 cards of your library, put an aura or equipment from among them on the battlefield. If it's an equipment, you get to attach it to a creature you control. The rest go on the bottom of your library. So obviously, this isn't a legend, so you're not going to play it as your commander, but it's sort of like a weird powered down, I think, but still repeatable if you can keep attacking with it. Stoneforge Mystic, essentially, digging through your deck to find an artifact, or in this case, an aura, which, very similar to our last card, means I think this is a staple for any sort of aura or equipment style deck. Srams, Akiris, Euros, Sionas, many more. If your deck is built around that theme, you should be playing this card because it's perfect for it. Not only does it allow you to dig to find it, but it allows you to cheat on the equip cost, which is especially relevant with some really powerful equipments like Argenum Armor, Helm of the Host, which are really strong, but the fact that it costs 5 to equip, that's kind of a drawback. If you can hit them with Armored Skyhunter, not only do you get an expensive equipment, you're getting it equipped for free, which is insane. So Armored Skyhunter, if you're playing Aura.deck or Equipment.deck, put this in your .deck because it is going to be really good. We also got another uncommon legend, an Armix Filgery Thrasher. So 3 mana, black, legendary artifact golem. You get a 3/2 when it attacks. You may discard a card. When you do, target creature defending player controls gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts you control plus artifacts in your graveyard. Is also a partner. So Armix feels a little bit underpowered to me. I could see it working well with certain artifact-based partner pairs. Like Armix, you can attack, discard a card, and then use Silas Wren to get it back. You're going to have a bunch of equipment, most likely. With Akiri, this lets you get into black. You're going to have a ton of artifacts on the battlefield with Togo, which is going to allow you to basically kill anything when you attack with it. So I think certain artifact-based pairings could be good. The other way to go with this card is it's probably a good 99 card in reanimation decks. Obviously, if you have an artifact sub-theme, it's even better, but as a discard outlet, and you're probably going to have some mana rock sitting around, maybe that's enough that you can kill something when it attacks, but it's a sweet discard outlet, and you control it. You don't have to discard, so you can always choose no, but discarding so that you can like Chader, Deathroy, Teneb, whatever you want to do, offers potential as well. So Armix, I'm more excited for this one, I guess, in the 99 for the most part, although I do think there are some semi-janky partner pairings that could take advantage of this as a repeatable removal spell, and maybe get some graveyard synergies thrown in there as well. Finally today, in the world of lower rarity cards and reprints, we got some new commons and uncommons. Vow of Torment, a new Vow. I don't really like Vows though, I don't think they're very good. Anointer of Valor, limited only. Staunch Thornguard, worth mentioning because it's another common that can make you the Monarch. Being a common that can make you the Monarch probably means Pauper playability, and this one's colorless, giving that to any deck. We also got a Nara Wolfpack Familiar, which, kind of a medium, I would say, uncommon partner commander, making your commanders indestructible during your turn only. As far as reprints, Ring of Bright Earth is the big one. That's another $50 colorless card you're going to be thrilled to open in your rare slot. A couple of good Wrath reprints. A Steward Command Blasphemous Act. They get reprinted often, so their price isn't super high, but they're cards that need to be reprinted often, because if Wizards ever doesn't reprint them for a couple of years, they're in such high demand that their price will skyrocket. So good preventative reprints, I would say. It's not that their price is out of control right now, but by reprinting them preventatively, it'll keep it from ever getting that way. We also got some more etched foil reprints, Tamana, Rakdos, Braggo, one of my favorites. I might have to get that. One of my paper decks is actually Braggo. Thanks to Tomer actually gave it to me as a gift. I might have to try to get the etched foil Braggo to leave that deck in paper. Otherwise, just a ton of lower rarity stuff. A bunch more Vows, Perilous Mirror, Kumbaj Wishes with amazing Seb McKinnon art that's been on Magic Online for a while but has never been printed, I don't believe, in paper, so that's a sweet one to keep an eye out for. Anyway, that brings us to the end of our daily spoilers for today. So, what do you think? What do you think about all these ridiculous new cards? How good are the new legends? What do you think about more Monarchy and Pauper? Is that going to break the format? All the reprints? How good are the etch foils? Are we excited for those? Do you not care? Everything else, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.